Welcome to Cutoff Genes, the podcast that helps you find your truth using nothing but DNA. I'm Julie Dixon Jackson, and I'm a genetic genealogist, henceforth known as a Gen Genie.
I am Richard Castle, the producer, co-host, and I'm guest Gen Genie Jr.
Junior Gen Genie.
Junior Gen Genie.
It's good. I like it.
I mean, I don't even know if I'm good enough to be a junior yet. I'm more like
You're good enough.
I'm like a little...
And gosh darn it, people like you.
I'm like a Gen Genie zygote. I'm still just learning, but I'm fascinated by it, so I learned
You're
something.
a zygote in the zeitgeist.
Yeah. Oh,
That was fun, wasn't it?
I love that.
Okay, that's good. How are you?
I'm doing really well. How are you?
I am recently back from a vacation.
Did you have a good time?
I had a wonderful time. I'm not going to talk about it today.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks for bringing it up.
What is wrong with me?
Where's your tan?
It's not here yet. Okay, so, hey, you remember I was talking about the new GEDmatch Genesis?
Yes,
I
do.
I have a very quick little update. It's not much of one, except for the fact that it is now much more user-friendly.
Oh, good. What did they do?
Well, what I like the best so far is that I manage many, many kits on GEDmatch, and so I just have a list of them.
Kits, not kids.
No, I don't. I only manage 2 kids.
And barely.
Yes, barely. Boy, they are unmanageable. I manage a lot of kits.
Yes.
And so if I want to look at matches for one particular person, I have to, on the traditional GEDmatch, I have to copy, paste that number and then put it into a search function. And then, as opposed to, I mean, and that's not really a problem for most people, but it's annoying because there are so many of them and I don't have anything memorized. Anyway, my point is now you can click on that number in the list and it'll go right to that person's page and their matches, and it is delightful.
That's a nice little shortcut.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
I love when people make their sites more user-friendly.
Yeah, they're really getting there. I'm happy with it.
I look at my website that I made a couple years ago, and I update it once in a while, but every once in a while I think I really need to make it more current, and the websites look different now.
Did you make it yourself?
I did.
That's
Did.
impressive.
But I mean, it's sort of a cut and paste kind of thing, but it took me forever because I was just learning how to do it.
Right.
You know what happened was I hired somebody to do my website years ago, and they did it in Flash because that was the thing at the time, right? Mm-hmm. But what I didn't like about it was every time I wanted to update it or change it, I had to go to the same guy because he had the files and all that. I'm like, well, if I want to say where I'm performing or what I'm working on, I didn't want to have to rely on someone else. I wanted something that I could update myself.
So that you don't have to call them and give them, throw some change at them.
Exactly. So I decided to do it myself.
Brilliant.
And, it's a decent website for somebody who's not professional. But I think next time I'm hoping that the software and stuff has gotten better and more user-friendly like this.
It has.
Yeah.
Of course it has.
So maybe,
how can it not?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe you and I should do a podcast, like a website for our podcast.
We have one.
Oh.
It's called cutoffgenes.com. But all it actually, you know what? I could actually bling that thing out a little bit. I just don't know how, Rich.
Yeah. I produce the podcast, not the website.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not a web designer.
It's probably not going to happen, guys, unless somebody else wants to do it for us.
Oh, put it out there.
All right, it's out there. Okay. Hey, I've had an interesting run of very difficult cases lately where there appears to be some endogamy, but also people are in their trees that are connected to their DNA on Ancestry. They're putting the names of people that they're not genetically related to.
Why are they doing that?
I don't know, but it's messing with me. So this one family that I've been working on both sides, on both the maternal and paternal side, are people that I was looking for this name because they had this name, and I followed it up the tree, and they had listed that this person was their father, when in actuality, once I finally spoke to them, was not their father. They just took his name, which is fine, and I appreciate that he was the man who raised you and he was your father. But for DNA purposes, that messes everybody up.
Right.
So it's very frustrating.
Yeah, it's nice that you want to,
honor, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
But don't connect it. Have a different. If if your genetic tree is different than your family tree,
Right.
separate them, and the genetic one attached to your DNA, and the family one leave it as you wish. But please don't confuse.
It's like if you're a performer and you put your stage name on there instead of what your natural name is, because then nobody's going to be able to find you because it's a made up name or it's a name you took.
And it's not, and I get it that they're like, well, nobody should be looking at my tree anyway. Well, it's attached to your DNA, so
and
the reason it's there. In theory, is so that you can help other people
and to connect with other people. Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So that's just messing us all up.
Yeah.
Guys.
Although I'd be thrilled to find out that I was related to Barbara Streisand, but I'm just not going to put her in my tree just yet.
I bet you are.
No, I'm not related. I just have that recurring dream where I'm her houseboy.
Or, as we've said before, the guy that runs the department store in her basement.
Yes. Or more recently, Richard E. Grant, the actor, the actor that was nominated for what was that called? That movie with Melissa McCarthy.
Can You Ever Forgive Me?
Yeah, he recently, before the Oscars, a while back, he tweeted a picture of himself in front of Barbara Streisand's house, saying that he's been a fan since he was a kid. And next to it, he tweeted a letter he had written, a fan letter, when he was 14 years old. All right. Saying how much he loved her, and he had read in the magazines that she was having issues breaking up with her boyfriend Ryan O'Neal at the time, and he was inviting her to come and stay with his family. I forget where he grew up.
Oh, England.
No, it was some island.
Like off England, probably.
It might have actually
Guernsey
been
or something.
It might have actually been like an African island, like South Africa or somewhere.
Oh,
yes, but anyway.
Oh, maybe
so
South Africa.
Because she responded, and I thought that was
love it.
So then when the Oscars came on and she was there, they cut the if you watch the broadcast, if you still have it on your DVR, you can go back and look when she comes out. They show him and he's super excited,
really.
And I love when you see like an actor. Being a
nerding
fan.
out about another actor. I love that.
It just makes them more human, and then of course he was able to meet her at the ceremony and take a picture. And as soon as he didn't win for supporting actor that he was nominated for, I thought, she's never going to take that picture with him now. But she did,
because pictures aren't for losers.
Exactly. Only Oscar winners in this picture.
You know what story I thought you were going to tell? It's another Richard E. Grant story, because I heard it that day as well. I think he said it on the red carpet. He went to Melissa McCarthy's house the morning of the Oscars and made breakfast for her entire family.
Oh, wow.
Richard E. Grant, we have discovered, is a mensch.
Yeah, I love him.
Yeah.
And he's good
I
in the
do
movie,
too.
and he just seems like a really nice guy.
Yeah.
Cool
story.
Maybe I want to be related to him instead of Barbara.
Let's make it happen.
I'm going to be related to both of them.
Yes. Oh, that'd be quite the family, wouldn't it? Yeah. All right. Hey, somebody posted this on Facebook that cracked me up, because she titled it, "And We Wonder Why We Can't Find People."
Okay.
So this is a newspaper clipping from 1902. And it says, John Green was a woman. Sex was discovered after posing 35 years as a married man.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Petersburg, Virginia, March 22nd. Ettrick, a small manufacturing village near this city, had a genuine sensation yesterday in the discovery that John Green, a person who has posed before the world for 35 years as a married man, was a woman. She died yesterday morning from a complication of diseases in the 75th year of her age, and the discovery was made by neighbors who were called in to prepare the remains for burial.
What a shock that must have been. It would be a shock even today, if you didn't know.
Right.
But then, it was a different time, and
Yes.
we are not, we are much more aware, trans aware.
Absolutely.
And gender identity aware.
Yes. So it's not so shocking, except for the fact that they were able to keep it a secret from everybody.
Yeah, I'm having
all those years.
I'm having the crying game comes into my head because
Yes,
remember
and
how
also,
shocking that was? And I don't know that it would be shocking today. If that movie came out
remember
today.
there was the whole thing don't give the twist away.
Yeah.
Just when they said that, I knew what the twist was just by the way they said that.
You mean the twist was a penis?
A twisted penis.
Twisted penis. Well, we
Yeah.
never. Yeah, I don't remember, but
Yeah.
1902. My goodness.
Yeah, isn't that great? Let me see. The women came to the village from Raleigh, North Carolina, about 2 months ago, and belonged to the laboring class.
Oh, laboring class.
What a weird.
Yeah. I assume that's not a class where they learn how to go into labor.
Clearly not.
It was pre-Lamaze class.
Lamaze. Was it? Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Oh, I get it. The laboring class.
You're just getting it
That
now?
was a slow burn for me.
Oh, my God. Julie, look who you're with here.
I know. What is wrong with me?
Catch up.
Anywho, I thought that was a fun story. Wasn't there another Glenn Close movie where she played?
Yeah, something Nobbs, Alfred Nobbs or Alfred.
Yes.
Yeah, or something like that.
I guess I should watch that, shouldn't I?
Yeah. Was this person married?
Yes, they were in a relationship for 35 years.
So what, did the person they were in a relationship with know that?
Oh, I'm sure.
Well, you're sure, but,
It says the wife in the partnership survives. Actually, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Maybe. Who knows?
It could be like a Yentl thing.
Lots of things were done in the dark back then.
No, I mean, here I go back to Barbara, right? But of course, Yentl, she pretends to be a boy and she marries Amy Irving.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And there's that whole wedding night scene where she's trying to keep Amy Irving from having sex with her because, well, she's a woman and she doesn't want her to know that she's a woman.
I'm having such memories.
Here I'm bringing up Crying Game and Yentl. Whoever thought?
Well, it goes with the story. It's topical.
Yeah.
Anywho. Yeah, I like that. But that's, you know what, maybe further research should be done because I'd like to know whether or not the wife knew.
Yeah.
I would like to think that she did, and they were a couple, but said, well, the only way we can do this and be together is for one of us to be a man.
Maybe. Let's do some further research and see.
That's a good idea for a play.
I'm willing to bet you that there have been many stories of this type.
You mean like Yentl?
Well, I mean, in Yentl, she wasn't married to her for that long before
Right.
she finally decided to,
And she wasn't in love with her. Why did she marry? Because she wanted to study. That's right.
She wanted to study, and
For her papa,
and she
so
loved,
he could hear her.
She loved Mandy Patinkin, and he was supposed to marry.
Who wouldn't love Mandy
Yeah,
Patinkin?
well, back then.
Yeah.
Now I find
Enough said.
And the light.
I always think, and the band played on.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh, we digress. Okay, let's. Shall we move on?
This is such an interesting mashup of DNA and musical
And
theater
musical theater.
and movies.
It's a really good one. It's a good one. Should we take a break?
If you're enjoying Cutoff Jeans, please subscribe, rate, and review. Now back to Julie and me.
Okay, so let's talk about this lady, Danielle Teuscher, I think. So she got DNA tests for Christmas from her father. Or no, she gave it to her father and her close friends and her 5-year-old daughter.
Okay.
And she got an unexpected result because she had her daughter by the use of a sperm donor.
All right.
And so she didn't want to find the sperm donor. She just wanted to help her daughter know her heritage.
Yes.
And what have you. And I don't think she realized, the matching. So the mother of the donor came up as a match to her daughter's test. And she thought, how cool is this?
Yes.
So she reached out to her and said, hi, I think your son may be my daughter's donor. I don't want to invade your privacy, but we're open to contact with you and your son. And she thought it was a cool thing. So then she gets this letter from, who is it from? Oh, from the cryobank, not from the mother directly, but I guess she'd called the cryobank to complain.
The cryobank where the sperm
had come from.
Okay.
In Spokane. And she got a letter that threatened her with penalties of $20,000 for flagrantly violating the agreement she'd signed by seeking the identity of the donor and contacting his family.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Ouch.
And it also said, get this. It also said that it would deny her access to 4 vials of sperm from the same donor that she had hoped to use. So she'd kept them.
In case she wanted to have more children.
Exactly.
Yes.
She wanted to be genetically related.
Okay.
Yeah, and they also said upon further investigation, we may be entitled to additional monetary damages if you have used other ancestry DNA programs, facial recognition tools on the internet, or any other means directly or indirectly to contact or seek the identity of the donor.
You know what? maybe she should just let it go and because not have any more kids by this donor because they clearly might grow up to be jerks.
Yeah.
Because that's awful.
Isn't that horrible?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so let's unpack this.
All right.
So I understand that she probably signed something when
that said she wouldn't actively seek out.
Right. But she didn't, right? Well, I mean, I guess she did in that she reached out to this woman
but she
who was
was
the mother of the donor, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, it wasn't like she went seeking. I think what you
she didn't
said,
harass.
She said,
she
like,
wrote
we're
a letter
open.
that said, hey, I think maybe that, my daughter is related to you. We'd be open to, and she said, I don't want to invade anybody's privacy. She was very clear. But people freak out.
Well, at this point, because DNA is so popular now, this is going to be something that happens again and again and again. And I don't know how this cryobank can enforce this because people are doing DNA all the time and matches are going to come up. I guess
yeah,
so. You're
I think
not.
Go ahead.
Are you saying you can't reach out to any relative because they might be related to the sperm donor?
Right. Well, and it's because the mother wrote a letter. If the child because once the child is 18, they can't stop anybody from doing anything.
Okay.
Because the child never signed anything.
Right.
So once she's 18, she can. There's.
Right. But if the child is 5, she's got 13 more years. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
I hate this stuff. I feel like it's so rude to threaten somebody. And it's one thing to threaten them with legally, but
and
then to say
monetary stuff.
Yeah.
That's so mean.
And then I'm also going to withhold this from you.
It's horrible. It's so.
I would never go to that cryobank.
No, I wouldn't. They're actually affiliated with California Cryobank too.
Really?
Yeah.
I guess maybe if I was a donor who didn't want to ever be found, I'd be on their side on this. But I don't know how anybody in this day and age can go and donate sperm or eggs to any kind of bank.
Right, because the kid's only 5, so it couldn't have been that long ago.
Yeah, with the expectation that you won't be found out.
Right.
At this point.
I have another case, a very difficult case I've been working on, where the closest match was looks like about a second cousin. And you see that, and it should be very easy to figure out. So I did what I usually do, and I built the tree, and the second cousin should be my go-to of how to do it. And I built as much of the tree as I could, but there are certain missing things, and I needed to get clarification on who this person's grandmother was so I could make sure I had the right family connected to them. That's all. And I reached out to him. I reached out and I never got a response. I reached out to his wife and I did talk to her and she said, well, okay, let me ask him. He's kind of private, but whatever. And I said, I'm just trying to help somebody find their truth and they're not that closely related to him. So it's not something that he should feel threatened by.
Right.
And I never heard from them. I sent them a letter explaining all the stuff, once again, telling them that they don't need to out anybody. I just need the facts on who his grandparents were, basically.
Yes.
Long story short, they had never responded. Next time I logged in, he had removed his DNA from Ancestry.
Wow.
So me thinks he knows something. And
or he's just really private.
Or he's super, I don't know. It's one thing to be really private, but it's another thing to actually keep somebody from knowing their...
I agree with that.
I have so much empathy.
And I also wonder if people who have sent in these DNA tests to Ancestry or whatever, 23andMe, if they really think about the fact that, you're putting it out there and the idea is that people will match with you and that you're open to the fact that somebody might come out.
But a lot of people don't know that. Yeah. There are so many people that don't even realize that the relative matching is an option. And I've said it before that I think it's maybe kind of better that way. So that for people like me, because I think, even though, if somebody knows they have a bunch of children out there and decide not to take a DNA test, they're going to get found anyway because somebody in their family is going to take a DNA test.
Exactly. Yeah. Like you said in this story, she matched her daughter to the donor's mother, not to the donor himself.
Right.
So,
Yep.
No more, yeah. I don't think anybody can go and donate something, any kind of tissue or sperm or eggs, with the reasonable expectation that you're not going to be found at some
No,
point.
certainly not anymore.
And even within the last 5 years, I think.
Certainly, yeah, because that's been the onslaught.
And shame on that company for being such jerks about it. Legal action, monetary.
It's just yucky.
It is yucky.
Ugh. All right, let's do a listener question.
Yes, let's.
Shall we? This is from Debbie Parrott, who I think we've had a question from before. She asked good questions. So she said she's trying to find her elusive 2-time great-grandfather, Jackson. There is no record of him prior to his enlisting in the Civil War. Nobody can find his parents. There was a story that he was born at sea, went on the way over from England, but nothing. There are no certificates or anything. So she's thinking maybe the DNA will help us. So he is the paternal grandfather of her maternal grandmother, who had 2 sons, both of whom passed. She has no brothers. She has 1 male cousin, should he be tested. She said she knows the males inherit the Y chromosome, which can easily be tracked, and I have that branch of my paternal grandfather's family tracked very well. If I get my cousin Michael to do the test, will he carry any of my elusive Jackson's DNA? I'm determined to find this man's family. Okay. 1, yes, he will carry some of Jackson's DNA because anybody that's a descendant of him will carry his DNA. 2, he will not carry his Y DNA because he is not a direct paternal descendant of Jackson. Mm-hmm. He is a descendant of Jackson, but he has his father's paternal DNA, which is not a descendant of Jackson.
Right.
So, so the answer is get as many people as possible to test, Debbie. But the Y DNA only works with direct descendants because that's all it looks at.
So there's no guarantee that her cousin is going to be able to help her solve this mystery.
There's no guarantee, but the more people that test,
Yeah, because if his
right, but there's
DNA
no point in doing a Y DNA test for him,
right?
Which is an extra cost. Right. So,
but putting his DNA up there and see who he matches might open up new doors.
Yes, right. Because we all inherit DNA in different amounts and different parts of DNA from different people. So certainly it would help, but it would help with anybody.
Well, I hope that answers your question, Debbie, and thank you for the question.
Thanks, Debbie. That was a really good question. Let's take a break.
Thank you for listening to Cutoff Genes, the new podcast starring Julie Dixon Jackson.
Okay, guys, here we go. It is story time. It is part 4 of our Rashomon style story time with the 4 members of one family talking about how they used DNA to reconnect. This is Rebecca, who is the wife of an acquaintance of mine from another podcast. I don't know why I needed to mention that. He's a delight, though. So thanks, Dane, for setting this up for me. I appreciate it. So this is Rebecca, and she's going to tell her part of the story, and I'll be back to say goodbye in just a few minutes. Hey guys, I have Rebecca here. Rebecca is the daughter of Anna and sister of Jessica and half-sister of Kari, and she is the last piece of our puzzle, our 4-person puzzle in the same story, and I'm going to hear her version of it. Rebecca, welcome.
Sure, thank you.
So, you found out at some point that you had a half-sister out there. Tell me about that.
Okay. Well, I don't really remember exactly when I found out, but I do remember finding out maybe as a teenager.
Okay.
And, I was always wondering and just curious about her, but, I lived out of the country, so we were kind of, out of touch with things here in the United States.
Okay.
So we didn't really ever have like a formal sit down or conversation or anything like that. We just kind of, it's so long ago, I don't remember all the specifics on that, but I remember, finding out and then just kind of being a little bit in awe and just being, oh my goodness, and so curious about about the information.
Yeah.
And, we just didn't have much information. We lived in Chile, and so, being down there, I remember we had this huge map on the wall of the United States and the world. And I would look up there and kind of think about what my family was doing. And so I would remember just wondering, what that other sibling might possibly be doing.
Right.
So years down the road, my husband at the time, he was studying to be a lawyer, and he was working in a law firm. And we had started to do a search, actually, to try to figure out, if we could find any additional, information.
Right.
And this wasn't like really widely known to the family or anything. We were just curious, and we just wanted to see what we could find.
And what steps did you take?
Well, he had contacted an attorney in the office where he worked that did these sorts of things. And we had limited information because my mother had limited information.
Mm-hmm.
We started, and at the same time, good job, baby. Okay, go upstairs and watch your show, okay? Okay, I'll start a new one.
What's her name?
This is Piper.
Oh, sweet.
So we had started to look for this, but we just didn't have the finances to continue. We kind of got into a roadblock, not only financially, just because it was so expensive.
Yeah.
To pay the attorney by the hour.
Right.
And, the internet was just sort of starting at that point where there were some resources, but even when we looked, maybe we just didn't know where to look.
Yeah.
And how to go about to the right places. And so we just hit roadblocks.
Yeah, I'm thinking back then, unless you were the adoptee and had managed to obtain non-identifying information, if you were from the biological side, you weren't going to get any information. The only thing you really could have done probably was sign up at the registries where,
right. And honestly, I didn't even know that those existed.
Right. Okay, so then you gave up on that, and then what was the next thing that happened?
On my side, my husband got very ill, and he ended up passing away in 2007.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
And so life just got really complicated for myself. I just didn't pursue it any further, not because I didn't want to, but just because I was so overwhelmed with what was going on with me.
Of course.
Recently, Jessica told me that she had done the
DNA test.
ancestry DNA test.
Okay.
And so I was like, well, if there is something out there, then surely we will find something out. And I had I think about that same time was when the police had used a DNA site to find
the Golden State
serial killers.
Yep.
Yes. And I was like, if they can do that,
yep.
then this can go somewhere.
And then what happened when her results came in?
She got her profile and other, familial connections, but it didn't list Kari.
Right.
And so eventually when Kari did her test and it connected her with my sister, and I don't remember if I'll have all the details correct, but I guess they communicated, and then my sister Jessica called me not long later, maybe 10 or 15 minutes later.
Mm-hmm. Not long at all.
Pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Pretty quickly.
So I understand you're the first one that met Kari, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Can you tell me about that?
Sure. So Kari was going to Des Moines, Iowa to visit her mother. And we live my husband and I, my daughter, we lived about 8 hours from there. And so I was like...
Not that close, Rebecca, just let me say. 8 hours is quite the drive.
It is quite the drive. However, versus 24-hour drive or something like that, I was like, 8 hours is not that far away.
Okay.
We stayed, I think, 2 or 3 nights up there, and we met Kari, and we spent, as much of time as she had available to spend. She was there for a purpose as well, to take care of her mother who was ill.
Mm-hmm. So when you met her for the first time, what were your first impressions?
Well, just that she looked so much like my mother.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Yeah, it's just that she looked so much like my mother. And so the rest of us 3 children, I feel like resemble my father more.
Right.
We have characteristics and traits of my mother. However, not as much as Kari appears to look like my mother.
Yeah.
And so when I looked into her eyes, it was like looking into my mother's eyes. Oh my goodness, this is my mom.
Now, wasn't there a certain time when you were having dinner, I guess that first time that your husband, Dane, noticed something?
We were sitting in the lodge. We were staying at a lodge, and we were sitting there, and my husband was taking pictures because one of his hobbies is photography. Mm-hmm. And so he wanted to take pictures. And so we were just sitting there, and suddenly he's like, "You guys don't move." And we were like, "Oh my goodness, what?" And we looked down, and she was holding her hand the same way I hold my hand. And how that is I will casually hold my thumb between my first and second finger.
Yeah.
And I just do that. And it's kind of odd. And, not a lot of people do that. But it's just casually, that's how I always am. And my daughter, when she was born, she did the same thing as well.
Oh, my gosh.
Like, oh, my goodness, this is a family trait.
Yes.
Well, then suddenly he looks down, and Kari's sitting there doing the same thing I'm doing.
Oh, my gosh.
And neither of us were aware of it, and he just caught it and was like, "Oh, my goodness, this is weird." And, so there's that. And then, I just, Kari has, she'd never met Mom, and yet her hand motions and her expressions and how she holds her head and, they were just like my mom.
Huh.
It was so cool.
Very cool.
During that trip, Kari took me and showed me the house where she grew up in. And, the tree, there's this tree that she has lots of stories about. And she showed me the tree, and the grocery store where her and her sister would always walk to. And
right.
The church that they went to. So that was really cool, just to be able to
have a little insight to how she grew up. Yeah, that's great. That's wonderful. Rebecca, I want to thank you for being so welcoming of your half-sister. Doesn't always happen that way for everybody. So it's such a great story, and thanks for completing the circle for us so that we have everybody's little nuggets of information about it. We appreciate it.
Of course.
Okay. Thanks for talking to me. All right, thus ends our 4-part Rashomon-style storytime series. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you so much, Rebecca, for rounding that out for us. I think it was a wonderful story, and it was really great to hear it from everybody's perspective. So thank you so much to Anna, Kari, Rebecca, and Jessica. I appreciate it so much. Hey, guys, I am out of here. You can reach Richard on Twitter at Castle Songs. At Castle Songs. Why am I always so bad at this? Okay, his website is richardcastle.com. Find me on Twitter at Jules Jackson with 2 O's. Find the podcast at Cutoff Jeans Pod, and find us on Facebook, Cutoff Jeans Podcast Group. All right. Hey, guys, we will see you next week. We probably won't see you, and you probably won't see us, but we'll be in your ears next week, I hope. In the meantime, always remember, the truth is in your jeans.